We are attempting to find Paul.
He went to the bathroom.
Please welcome Paul W.S. Anderson up here. As the credits say, Paul Anderson, not to be confused with Paul Thomas Anderson or Wes Anderson.
Oh my God.
There's three.
There's three? Okay. That's fine.
How'd it go? How'd you guys like that? Best audience participation I've ever seen, including Robin Shou, who was apparently not happy about being shirtless too much.
We were cutting budget.
I spent all on that leather dress.
Oh,
No, guys, thank you guys for being here. Paul, once again, this is an honor to do this, and it's Robin, and now we have Linden too. First thing right out of the gate, you know, I noticed a lot of people you guys signed and were so cool about it. A lot of the posters said spring 2000, you know, spring, not 2000, spring 95. What happened there, Paul, with, and Chris had mentioned like reshoots, so like, when was this originally supposed to come out? What pushed it to August?
We made the movie for New Line, and which was run by Bob Shea at the time. And Bob, he had this theory. It's called the Bob Shea car crash theory of filmmaking. That's what everyone referred to it in New Line. And he felt that a movie had to be spontaneous when you made it to really be fantastic. And if things were too organized, he would kind of like throw a car crash into the works. So what he did with us is he took $2 million out of the budget about 3 weeks before we started shooting. And you know, that was, you know, it wasn't a huge budgeted movie. It was $21 million, which at the time, you know, was, for what we were trying to do, wasn't that much. So we dutifully took the money out, and then we went and shot the movie. And then we tested the movie that we shot, and we were told by the first test audience we didn't have enough action, because that's what we cut out to do it for $2 million less. So we ended up shooting 2 extra scenes, which was the Johnny Cage scorpion fight and the Liu Kang reptile fight. And you know, they're some of the best fights in the movie because they were the ones that we got to spend the most time and money on, because the audience had told us to go away and do it. So we did, and we shot a slightly tweaked ending for the movie as well. So we just basically shot, what was it, like 3 extra weeks of just people beating the hell out of one another. Yeah. And that's what the movie should have been.
It's pretty unique because, like I said, I've snuck into test screenings and I've seen, usually it's because the movie needs help that they reshoot, or maybe to spice it up a little bit, but they actually reshot it. It must have tested that incredibly well for them to say, well, yeah, we need to do better fights, but we also want to shoot a cliffhanger ending that could lead into a sequel or a franchise.
Well, they definitely had high hopes for it, especially once, you know, Robin and I showed them the plans for what this additional fighting would be. But they didn't really have a choice. I mean, it was, the movie needed help, you know, and that was the great thing about test screens. And we only tested the movie twice because the second test screening went so well. I mean, it was the polar opposite of the first test. The first test, the movie was in trouble, which, I mean, you know, was only my second film, and you know, both Robin and Linden were much more experienced than me. I mean, Linden had done like multiple big Hollywood films, and he was telling me when we shot his fight in the rubber plantation in Thailand, he's saying, you know, man, you don't have it. You know, I should really be fighting for another week. And I'm like, yeah, you know, what am I going to do? I mean, the studio's telling me, you know, we got to go home. But, you know, he was right. And eventually we did.
Say that again.
It happens occasionally. And
I can't believe Susan's left.
and so we shot for another week, and then we shot for a week to do the reptile fight as well.
So let's actually take it back to the basics. This is the best video game adaptation out there, I feel. Yeah. I like it too, but I feel like Mortal Kombat it just doesn't die, which is great. But up here, Linden, Robin, Paul, were you guys a fan of the game? Like, are you biased? Is your favorite character of the game Johnny Cage? Is your favorite character Liu Kang?
Honestly, for me, I had no idea about Mortal Kombat.
Seriously, I was working in Hong Kong. We came back here to the States for a vacation. And then they say, hey, you want to go in to audition for this movie, Mortal Kombat? I go, oh, okay, I guess so. And that's it, really. So I had no idea about the game. But I have a friend who played Liu Kang in the video game, so Ho Sung. So he told me about the game, so I did play a little bit at the arcade.
I had no idea about the game. I had no idea about the game. I got this meeting on this film and went in and met these guys. And the cool thing about this movie is that everybody needed this one to work. I just finished Wyatt Earp, and I needed this next movie. Paul needed this movie. Robin needed this movie. We all needed this movie to work. I mean, and it did. We caught lightning in a bottle, and you don't do that very often in your career. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of times that it's happened, and it just worked. I mean, the chemistry worked. The chemistry worked, and I was watching it this time. Very well directed. Good job. Good job.
He was dope. He was dope.
The kid's gonna make something of himself.
He's gonna go into space next.
Yeah, and so we did it, and the funny thing is, and we made this movie that worked for whatever reason that it worked, and then they made the next one and like got rid of Christoph, they got rid of me, they got rid of Bridget, they got rid of was Carrie.
Then I'll go ahead and shoot in since you have the mic and we're talking about the second movie, because I got to know Robin a little bit, and this is the only question that I really want to get into Annihilation. But why? There's these DVDs for these movies. They're bare bones. They don't have commentaries. They don't have behind the scenes really. They don't have anything. So and I try to know everything about these movies. But what exactly was the problem with Annihilation for you to not return as Johnny Cage? Did they try to kill you off? And you
Johnny Cage was dope.
Or were you originally a longer part, or
No.
a diva?
I think they tested, and I think Larry Kazanoff did. I don't know that I tested that well, for whatever reason, and I don't know that Bridget did, and they wouldn't honor my sequel deal.
Bullshit.
That's right. And then he wrote this. I think that he wrote this script with his assistant Josh, and it was like he never kind of got that a video game and a movie are two different things. This guy understood that.
I mean, that's the thing. Like with Paul, like in this first movie, it's very rare when.
And I'm not bagging on Larry. I mean, yeah, I guess I am. But
totally go for a photo.
Yeah, that's he wouldn't honor my deal, and he didn't.
Well, that was a stupid decision. I'll have the guts to say.
And he wouldn't honor Christopher's deal, and he, did they ask you to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You said no.
Yeah.
Good man. He thought that he was the reason that the movie was successful.
No,
he really did.
Because of the three of you and Bridget and Felicia, I think. So, mostly you. We'll go with that. But okay, so I think the biggest question that a lot of fans have is this is based on an M-rated hardcore. This is going to Paul. So Paul, with this M-rated game where I'm literally ripping off heads and tearing people in half and blood and guts, now the games would be rated like E10 plus. But like they originally. If you came now and we had an R-rated franchise and said, oh, we're going to make it PG-13, it'd be all over Twitter, there'd be all these fanboys, all these like podcasters, bloggers, hating on it. But I think you did an amazing job of making it PG-13. But whose exact decision was that? Was that partly you as a director, or?
No, it was, I was brought on as a director for hire, and that decision had already been made before I became involved. Although my first meeting at New Line, I'd just flown from England. I got hired as the director. I'd auditioned for the job, and I'd impressed the studio enough that I could come and direct the movie, and they'd flown me into LA, and I had my first meeting with Bob Shea, who was running the studio, and he looked at me, this room full of studio executives, and said, "Why the fuck are we making this picture?" And I'm like, and it came as a surprise to me, because it sounded like he didn't really want to make it. And he said, "You know, the game's very violent, and this movie's, it's not very violent. What are you doing?" And I'm like, and all these decisions, of course, have been made before I became involved. And, you know, I felt, I mean, it's a truism that people say, sometimes the things you imagine are much more powerful than things you can show. And that's what we tried to do with this. You know, we tried to suggest things. We tried to suggest the brutality and the violence of the video game. Because even if you'd made it an R-rated movie, you could never have got on screen the kind of things that are in the video game. I mean, it would have been like an NC-17. You would never have got it into cinemas. And I was a fan of the video game. I played it in the arcades.
Yeah.
And although I wasn't the best player, so I didn't get to a lot of the fatalities, to be honest.
You just did the same special
But I
move
did.
over and over.
I just kind of like waggled everything really fast and hit things. And but I really enjoyed the visceral thrill of playing and the combat. That's what I remember. I remember the combat more than the fatalities, and I thought that's what the movie's about. The movie's about these great characters, because I knew there were characters from the game, and it's about the fighting, and that's what we delivered on screen. And, you know, we didn't have all of the fatalities and spinal columns coming out, but ultimately it didn't matter, because that, I don't think, is what the video game is about, and that's certainly not what the movie had to be about. And as Linden said, they're two different things. You know, you've got to make a movie. You can't just slavishly try and put the video game on screen, because that just never works.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of that wouldn't work in a movie anyway, like ripping out someone's spinal cord on camera.
It would.
Just kind of would be more of a Belko experiment than a, you know.
Well, and what everyone forgets also is that this was the first successful adaptation of a video game to movie. And there had been Mario Brothers, there had been
Street Fighter, but those movies were terrible.
Street Fighter, Double Dragon,
Oh,
and those were huge video games. Though they were huge video games, and nobody thought this thing was going to be successful. Nobody. I mean,
Big Week's number one.
That's why I got to direct it.
Yeah, that's why I got this story. You know, that's why we got to be. It's. I'm serious. They really did not think this was going to work, and it's like, yeah, you know, they were surprised, and it was number one for
3 weeks.
3
in a row.
weeks.
Mortal
Hurt
Kombat!
And yeah, I mean, we showed them.
So, Robin, you were actually, if you pay attention to the credits, and Paul had kind of mentioned earlier, you had worked on the choreography
Right.
for the fight scenes. How much and to what extent and what scenes did you help work on with it? And did you work directly with Paul or?
Oh yeah, I mean, I worked with Paul very closely. I mean, I know exactly what Paul wants. I think by that time it was towards the end of the movie, so I got to know Paul really well. And he is a fanboy of the game. And he really liked
He's a huge, awesome nerd guy.
You know, yeah, exactly. So, and he loved the movie because it's almost like I can say this. Every day I go to work, Paul would say, "Robin, come here, look at this set. My God, I can't believe this set." And then
You're a man now. They're practical. You don't get that these days.
No, exactly. So every day he was so excited. So I mean, how can you not get excited with him?
Exactly.
So when we had a chance to reshoot the fight scene, you know, I was excited. So I would go to Paul every day with some ideas and say, "Yeah," and then we would study films and we would study the type of martial arts we wanted to use. We were very fortunate to do the Johnny Cage, Scorpion, and Liu Kang
So
reptile.
you did choreograph.
I choreographed those fights, yeah.
Wow.
So, but I told Paul that, you know, if this movie is about fights, you can't stop and break. You know,
6 in a row. It's
Because
my
like
favorite
in
part.
video game, you don't stop and wait a minute, I need a breather.
You can't pause. It's actually a cheat code to pause
So
in the
that's
game.
why the fight needs to be very kinetic. And I remember Linden, when we were doing the Scorpion fight, I said, "Linden, you're gonna have to get hit." And he said, "Are you kidding me?" You know, and then, no, but you're gonna look so good. Really? So I think some of the shot that you saw Linden get hit in the face is actually all real.
Hell yeah.
All real.
I got kicked so hard in the kidneys. I got I got kicked so hard in the kidneys, and it doesn't look like anything on screen. It's like I go down on that railing, and just this axe kick comes in, and I had a pad, but like always, if you got pads all over your body except for like this much, guess where you get hit? and just like, oh my God, it hurt. Yeah, and like I had a great double. I'm not a great martial artist. You're a great martial artist. I'm an okay. I'm like a, yeah. But, but you forget like Goro, he wasn't CGI. He was a big animatronic puppet that never fucking worked. I mean, this thing there was some poor guy in the bottom of it, and they would stick him in this suit, and they'd like stick an air hose in there, and he couldn't see anything. I think he had did he have a TV screen? He had a TV screen, and they'd stick him in there, and they'd be like, all right, dude, you got your air? And he'd be like, and then they like yank the air hose out, and they go, okay, he's got a minute. and then he'd be running around, and they'd be like, and he's in the dark, and he can't breathe. And then the thing on top, the beast, would break, and it'd just sit there like it would overheat, and then it'd just start going, and then we'd have to like cool him off, and they'd have to work on him, and you just sit around for hours with that thing, and they'd be like, yeah, but look, his eyes dilate. It was horrible.
Now, I've done this with Paul and Robin. As I said, you're a new addition to it, but I'm getting the feeling that you actually didn't have to play that much of a stretch to play Johnny Cage.
No, pretty close. We came up with a lot of those lines.
Yeah, no, you came up with it.
Yeah, the screenplay we started out with didn't have any humor in it whatsoever, and I felt humor was very, very important. So I worked very hard with Linden and with Christophe as well to add humor to the screenplay, and so much so that at one point Linden met the writer at a party about a year after the movie came out, and the movie had been a huge hit. And the writer came up to Linden and said,
he introduced me to his wife or his girlfriend, I don't know which one. And he goes, this is Linden Ashby. And she goes, oh, nice to meet you. He goes, yeah, this is the guy who fucking ruined my movie.
So I got that going for me.
So I was
but just to circle back on the second Mortal Kombat movie, it's one of the reasons I felt it really hurt the film, because that humor I thought was very, very important to the movie we made together, and I thought it was something that was kind of sorely lacking or didn't hit the mark in the second film.
Well, something that I had brought up at the last screening, speaking of the script, was there was quite a few scenes. I looked through it last night with Liu Kang, the katana. You guys originally didn't wait until the sequel to make out. And why did that get cut, or did they film and they're just nowhere to be found?
Well, I have no idea. I really have no idea. I mean, they just say, hey, kiss her. Okay.
Robin, when you were kind of put in the spotlight in this film, as you said, it was kind of like everyone was against it, no one thought it'd be this huge deal. In the mid-90s, it was a huge deal to have someone who wasn't, just say Caucasian, be a leading actor on the billboard, on the front page, at the video store. He was the cutout, and you're not American. How was that to take it in as an action star from a stuntman's perspective to being a lead character who's, fighting for the fate of the world?
I mean, I didn't really think about it, because it's a movie, and I've been acting for 9 years. I mean, it's exciting to be in America, my first American movie, but I didn't think of what kind of impact will it have. Honestly, I did not. Not until people would come up to me on the street and want me to sign the album And I go, wow, you carry your elbow? The movie elbow?
I think you have it, if you recall, the gold, because it went triple platinum.
Yeah.
And you have it like in your wallet.
So it didn't really hit me. So then, and after that I go, wow, this is pretty cool. And that's it. You know, I didn't really think too much about it.
And and this is for all three of you guys, and now when you look back at it 22 years later, like Linden, I feel like even looking at your Twitter page, it's like Teen Wolf Johnny Cage. Like I just feel like you really do hold this movie as a very dear place in your heart. Is that for both you and Robin?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, this is
this the film that you get when like people come up to you and
Yeah.
Do you just get
this
Teen Wolf all the
one.
time,
This
or
one
do you
has
get-
got like people love this movie. I love this movie, and this movie it's got a really special place in a lot of people's hearts, and we went and made this video game movie that just kind of went out there and got a life of its own, and it's still alive and kicking, and yeah, all the time, airports, restaurants, Johnny Cage. It's like
Where's your sunglasses?
yeah, exactly. I mean, how many? Those are $500 sunglasses. That's for so many people. It's yeah.
Was Paul a part of this movie? Obviously, it is a video game adaptation, but when you actually made it, did you have an intent to sort of like commercialize it towards not just fans of the video game, but also for just a common audience? Because I feel like if you do look at two, it's like total, like Melina's there for 5 seconds, Cyrex is there for 5 seconds. But there's actually character development in the first one. So was it meant to just be for the fans, or was there an option of like, let's actually make this kind of...
It's for both. I mean, I think when you do a video game adaptation, or an adaptation of anything really, you have to walk a fine line, because you have to please the hardcore fans who love the original source material, but then you have to make a movie that works for the people who don't know that source material from a hole in the head. And you need to make it work for both audiences without alienating either one. And I think in a lot of video game movies, they're so intent on pleasing the fans and being slavish to adapting exactly the video game, a mainstream audience go, I don't really think this is for me, I don't really know that world. And we tried to make something that, was for everybody. And, I always saw I mean, I love the video game, but I saw the movie as kind of a mashup of Enter the Dragon and Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite martial arts movie meets my favorite kind of mythic monster movie. And that's what I set out to make through the lens of Mortal Kombat.
I think you did that, and I also think you've done that with other video game adaptations. I think you've done a brilliant job of taking what's really cool about the game or certain bits and parts and mixing in something that is a little bit more commercialized or a bit different, or that suits I think a bigger spectrum. But Mortal Kombat, where in this billion-dollar franchise you've made, and Event Horizon and Soldier, and when Fox just totally screwed you over with AVP, but where does Mortal Kombat rank? Where does, I feel like you're always, this is the second time I've watched it with you, talking to Robin about you, talking to Sarah about you. It sounds like this was like
it's one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite, because it's the movie that kind of like started. I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't have made any of those other movies you mentioned without Mortal Kombat, I was fresh off the boat, and I was this young director from England, and if this movie hadn't worked, I'd have been sent back to England with my tail between my legs, and I wouldn't have had a career there, because everyone in England would have been, oh, you went to Hollywood and it didn't work, oh darling, I'm so sorry. Well, you're not working
here either. At least it was
either.
better than Street Fighter. That's the best compliment.
That doesn't work in England. Being better than Street Fighter doesn't mean anything. That and £5 will get you a cup of tea. And also I met friends for my life. It's very rare that you make a movie and you walk away with as many friends, really close personal friends as I have from this film.
And then that's why I remember one of the greatest moments in living in LA for 8 years was when I did Mortal Kombat. And I had joked and I said, when was the last time you and Robin just had a beer? and you sent me that email that was like, I pinned it on my wall, my roommate can attest, it's on my wall, that, you know, you've built friendships. I mean, he's friends still with Sandra Hess from Annihilation and everything, and that is the coolest factor about doing this event, is knowing that not only do the fans all unite, but you as a cast still 15, 20, 22 years later. I called Sarah, and Sarah she's like, oh, Linden just popped over for a beer. And I was like, cool, that's awesome, you know? But yeah, so 22 years later, we have this movie, and
Drinking beer is a very big part of what we do.
yeah.
You know, I once suggested to Robin that we go
Do
work
you
out
go as
together,
far as-
and he said, I work out enough. Let's meet and drink beer.
I can have one beer. I hit the gym 6 times this week. We'll have one beer. But let's actually turn it over to Robin for just a second before we're gonna head out to the audience. Robin, we didn't get to you with the question. Where does Mortal Kombat, in a career of stunt films, documentaries, now you have your first directing and writing feature coming up, where does Mortal Kombat rank?
I mean, it's one of my favorite movies also, because we have such a great relationship. I mean, you guys can see.
Linden was throwing popcorn at Paul.
I miss these guys. No, I mean, I miss them so much. And I think why the movie worked was because all of us were very honest and authentic to our character. And then we really loved the movie. So we were going to work every day excited. And of course, I remember Paul saying, like, when we were in Thailand, saying, how great is this? With his English accent, we ride a boat to go to work. You know, I mean,
I heard about that.
How often do you get to ride a boat and go to work? To these beautiful islands, beautiful beaches, and then you go to work.
Do you remember sitting in that restaurant? We had to sit, we'd like wait in this restaurant for the boats to come in the morning, right?
Yeah.
And then the monkeys would come. I'm not making this up. The monkeys would come, and it was like open. It had this opening, this big square opening in the roof, and the monkeys would come, and they come down, and you're like, holy shit, this is gonna end badly. And they'd be like around you looking, and you're like, where's the boat?
So before we turn it to the audience, everyone, when you were lined up, I gave you kind of a flyer card that had 2 movies on it, Earthbound and Mickey. And this is your first big crack.
It's my first narrative, yeah.
Yeah, your first narrative. And tell us a little bit about this film that's going to be, where is it going to be playing? And
well, it's gonna be at the Lemley, Pasadena on the week of May 12th, on Mother's Day weekend, through the 18th. And
Very near your birthday, is it?
Kind of. But, what was I?
you were talking about Earthbound, and you're still
okay. No, it's one of those project that is really personal to me, because I think right after Mortal Kombat, I developed this passion for Southeast Asia. I mean, I love that part of the world, the culture, just the people. I mean, they were all soft-spoken. Everything was just so nice. So when I heard about the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, I mean, at first, because living in the States, you don't really hear about news of other countries. So then I did some research and realized that 250,000 people died from the tsunami, and 1/3 of it were children. So then that really broke my heart, and I sort of did some more research, and I go, wow, this is a really powerful story. So I start writing. And then I go, wow, after I finish, I should really shoot this. So that's what I did. So this is really a passion project. So it's a short film.
Yeah, it's 26 minutes?
It's about 22 minutes.
Oh, 22 minutes. And so it'll be playing at the
Lemley, Pasadena.
Yeah. May 12th to the 18th.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a big deal, because theater don't really want to show short film.
No.
So then I think they read it, they sort of, they feel this will work. And because Lemley's an art house theater, so then they decided to book it, and but only for matinee though. So I said, oh, I don't care, matinee's good, I'll take it. So I think I'm very fortunate that they booked the film.
No, I can tell I got a text from Robin randomly, I didn't have his number, and it said, I got your number from Sarah, this is Robin Shou. And I woke up and my roommate, I just kind of screamed, and I'm like, what? Dude, like Robin Shou just texted me, and like then I saw the trailer and I researched the film and stuff, and it seems like it's a very important film. You definitely have your heart invested in it, and I certainly will be there that Sunday. You said is the good day for.
Yeah, Sunday.
Sunday the
Mother's Day,
yeah.
because the film's about mothers.
All right, and let's do some questions. Okay, yeah.
Hey guys, you're awesome. This has been really great. So one of my favorite things about this movie, besides the three of you and Robin's hair in the movie.
Right, he's got great hair. I mean, when he came up, and it was like, I was like, whoa.
And the first time I met him, he was like, it was as short as Paul's.
Yeah. And that was in Thailand, it was so hot.
And also, now I'm sure you know that Paul directed the first Death Race, right?
Yes.
So he asked me, Robin, you know, I have this amazing part for you in Death Race, but we need to shave your hair. I go, yeah, anything's fine to work with Paul again. So yeah.
That's how I knew, because Linden is actually, I don't know why he climbed the Eiffel Tower, but he falls and dies in Resident Evil 3 Extinction. And he recasted these people. That's like the coolest thing ever. Like,
Yeah.
that's just super cool.
So my question was,
Okay.
so my other favorite part of the movie is Trevor Goddard as Kano, because he's an incredible character actor. And obviously he passed away a while ago. So was there any interesting stories or tidbits about working with him? I mean, I loved him in the 90s.
He was, Trevor was a force of nature. I mean, he was like that guy, he was playing Kano. He also played a pirate in Pirates of the Caribbean. That guy was a pirate in the best possible way. And before we did Mortal Kombat, he had been in the same villages in Thailand shooting this Dolph Lundgren movie, Men of War, I think it was called. And everybody knew him. Like every person who ran a bar, every woman, I mean everybody seemed to know Trevor. It was like the return of the king when he went back to Thailand.
Okay, guy dressed as Scorpion.
First of all, the movie had a very big impact on me. I worked at a movie theater when it came out, and our bosses said, put it in a little house because it's not going to sell. It was selling out night after night. I moved it to our big house, and so congrats on that. This movie also, I was telling Chris earlier, this is what inspired me to start martial arts. It was always fascinating to me, but it was always untouchable. So you guys got me in the dojo. Thank you. Changed my life. Other question for you, and this is, I guess, for anyone who can answer. Robin, phenomenal fight scene with Reptile. Where the hell was Johnny? What were you doing?
Yeah, dude, you didn't even have his back. Like, did you even come to filming for that?
His kidneys hurt.
Well,
Tana shows up, so I'm kind of like, wait a minute.
the truth of the matter is that we shot in Fontana. That was the old Kaiser steel mills, and now it's the racetrack. And we shot out there, and that's where was Reptile even there then?
No.
He wasn't even there. So yeah, we're walking, and it's like, do you hear it? I'm like, what, or whatever, and then I think I was in Fontana, and he was on a set in Van Nuys Airport. So I couldn't get there. I don't know. I was watching this time. It never bothered me before. Tonight I'm like, geez, I didn't really have his back, did I? I'm like, you go get him. You got it.
Yeah, I agree with what Kory said earlier. By far the best video game adaptation to a movie of all time. Period.
Thank you.
My question for Paul is, did you ever have any other Mortal Kombat characters in mind to have in the movie?
Originally, Jade, there was supposed to be a fight with Jade in the script. It's in the script.
Maybe. I mean,
And then they ruined her in the sequel.
I don't remember. I mean, it was always, I mean, these were the most popular characters from the game. Lou, Johnny, Raiden. And I knew that because I played the game in arcades and you just saw what people wanted to play. I don't know if many people wanted to play Jade. So I don't think it was any great loss.
I agree.
I've told this story before, and I'll tell it again. I got this part, and I thought, finally, I'm working with an Asian guy and two women. I'm going to be the tallest guy there. Because I'm not that tall. And I'm like, for once. And then I get on set and I go, God damn. It's like I look at Robin and I'm like, ah! And then these two models come in. And I'm like, can I get some lifts in my shoes? Yeah, you would think, why not? I should be the tallest, and I wasn't, again.
Yeah,
So Linden, you said you weren't like a martial arts guru. How much of training did you have to do for the movie, or was it all stuff?
No, I boxed quite a bit growing up, and I had studied a little bit of karate, but I was pretty good. My hands were pretty good, and I was a pretty good athlete. And we trained for 3 months. Yeah, I think. And I really enjoyed martial arts and kind of continued afterwards. So, no, I don't think I had a double until the scorpion fight. I mean.
Yeah, we didn't double many.
No.
Can you do the splits?
No. No, I cannot. And now for sure not. Yeah, I can bend down maybe, but.
I think one of the reasons why people feel this movie holds up was because there's not a lot of visual effects in fighting. I mean, this is what it is. Everything is real. Everyone is. I mean, we were tired. We were really tired, but then we had fun. We had really, really amazing fun. I mean, it's just that, it's all worth it. Again, I think Paul was saying, like, Linden was saying, like, this is our chance to do a big movie. It had to work. And also it's fantastic that we have a great relationship. So we would go to work, like, happy every day. And so, yeah, I think and you can see that on the screen because Linden is Johnny Cage and I am the King. I mean, it's just, there's no faking it. There is no faking it. You can really see that.
I just talk about doubles. So in that scorpion fight, there is the worst injury or the most pain I think I saw. Well, Robin got pretty racked out in that reptile fight. But it was that guy Tatsuro. And he did the flip, and then you watch, and his shins hit on this bar. And I'm like there, I'm just going, oh my God. And this is like a guy who would, right now happily just, now I don't need a pad, and he'd just fall flat on his back off this stage, he'd jump and just land right on the concrete. And he hit on his shins so hard, I thought his shins were actually gonna break and just go like this. And yeah, he couldn't do any more after that. And then who was the gymnast who came? Was it like Mitch Gaylord? And he's swinging around and I'm like, look at me.
You had the last question right here?
Yeah, thank you. All right, so in the trailer, there's this scene where Robin says, "You can't run from me, Shang." And Carrie goes, "I don't need to run." And that gets cut. And there's also a rumor I was hearing somebody tell me about earlier today, actually, that the scene where Sub-Zero fights against that masked guard and he freezes and shatters him, there was supposed to be, like opposite to that, a scene where Scorpion does like a toe steep fatality to another masked guard. And of course, in the sequel, there is this entire thing with Quan Chi that gets axed. And what about all these deleted scenes? Is there are there archives somewhere? Because I got the movie on DVD and Blu-ray and even Laserdisc, and there's never like a deleted scene index, and it would be great.
If there was action, it's in the movie. We didn't have the kind of budget where we could shoot whole big action scenes and just not stick it in the film.
My whip chain on the beach.
That we could cut. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was definitely like that was my biggest question, and I just forgot to ask it, but especially with the second movie, like Quan Chi is listed in the credits, but he's not in the movie, and there's an ending that was shot, there's a still of it, and I've wondered that too about the trailer, like why there is there anything at all deleted that?
There's Linden's whip chain scene.
Whip chains? Was that?
It was on the beach. I remember that vividly.
It was so romantic and beautiful, and they shot
Was
in slow
Bridget there?
motion. and I was oiled up, and it was probably too beautiful. For the
Does it exist anywhere? How much would it cost?
in my heart and in my memory forever. And I'm sure in Paul's too, and Robin's.
All right, I'll do one more. This guy way in the back, waving his hand, in the blue with the black idea.
Question: what scene took the most takes?
Ooh, that's good. What scene took the most takes? Was there something that you just flubbed, Linden or Robin, that you just couldn't get right, and you kept like, because we don't even have a blooper reel or outtakes
I
or anything.
remember one shot that I did 10 takes on. It was the shot where I get flung and hit this pillar.
I wasn't happy with you.
I know, he wasn't happy. He said, Robin, you can hit harder than that. So I think by the 10th take, I was really exhausted, so then I missed the pillar and hit the edge of the pillar. And I think was, because I fractured 2 ribs with that. So that was the most take I remember, so, but you know. It's only ribs. That's what Paul said. Can you do it again?
Like, we need to find the Linden Ashby whipping chains and like put Willow Smith's song to it, and like I whip my chains back and forth. No, that's it, you guys. Like, listen. Once again, I'm Kory. I'm at Movie Dude 18. I will be back here with Paul on May 16th at 8 p.m. When I say 8 p.m., it'll probably start at 8:30 the next day. No, we wanted to make sure everyone got signed in photographs, and I think everyone did, and I hope you guys were happy. This was definitely my favorite event. I'm usually more nervous. I'm usually a little bit more stuttery than I am, but I think it's because I'm home right now. This feels right. So I love you all, and thank you all for coming.